the city of Nazareth is extremely deceiving in its size, because when you look at what we have in Nazareth now, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus wouldn't recognize the place. Tour buses, stores, shops, traffic, footprint. I mean, Nazareth of the first century was 4 acres. And I'll show you the footprint. I'm talking 12 homes, I'm talking 300-400 people. And the 2 stories we're dropping in on, one told from the side of Mary, the other from the side of Joseph, are stories that we need to understand both in terms of the location and in terms of the age of these 2. We're going to talk about the annunciation of the birth of Jesus to Mary, and we're going to talk about the need for an annunciation to Joseph about what's going on. Before we do, let's again make sure we get Nazareth right. You saw the Decapolis city of Beck. Entertainment, food, shopping, the array of things that complex economy presented. It exists on the opposite side of the scale from Nazareth. Simple subsistence economy, dirt roads, one public building, a synagogue. You prepare your own, you grow your own food, you prepare your own food. There is no formal entertainment venue like a theater or horse racing stadium in town, and it is a deeply forgotten place. To appreciate how forgotten, realize that there are many places that are mentioned by the first century historian Josephus in his writings, and there are many places mentioned in the Midrashic literature of the Second Temple period, the traditional Jewish writings. Neither of those bodies of literature mention Nazareth once. It is as forgotten as a place could be. And it's in no small part because it sits in the bottom of the valley on top of a ridge. It sits in the bottom of the valley on top of the ridge. The world runs out here on the International Highway. It has no line of sight view to Nazareth, and Nazareth has no line of sight view to the world. It is the opposite of Bet Shean in culture. Greco-Roman pagan, observant Jewish, and intentionally so. They're using the topography to make sure that they isolate themselves in this little farming village from the thoughts that are running down here and are not such wholesome thoughts, the Bet Shean sort of stuff. Now we got to play out the story of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus there, not at Bet Shean. And as we come to the story in Luke chapter 1, verse 26, in the sixth, at verse 26, in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee. The place is front-loaded. Let's make sure we calibrate ourselves to the story geographically. That's what Luke is saying here. I'm not going to start telling you the story before I make sure you calibrate what's happening to this place. Socially conservative, religiously conservative, isolated, from the perspective of those in the south, backwater. He came in the 6th month. God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph. We don't have ages given, but we can use secondary literature to help us understand age here. In the Jewish tradition, well, first of all, let's explain what engagement is. Engagement meant that mom and dad of 2 kids had arranged a marriage for their son and daughter. And that marriage arrangement consisted of signing a contract called a ketuvah. That marriage contract included the financial terms. This is how much our daughter will bring into the marriage as a dowry. that money will always remain hers. So if the husband dies or there's a divorce, she keeps that element. The woman who had 10 silver coins and she was sweeping the floor because she lost one, probably her dowry. Yeah. So, and then on the flip side, the groom's family, or the groom, said, here is good faith money, called the bride price, mohar, that says, here's evidence that this young man can provide for your daughter. Now, typically that was given back to the bride and groom on the day of their wedding, but there were some other contingencies written in, as we'll talk about in a bit. So Mary and Joseph are engaged to be married. That means that an agreement has been struck between two families. The financials have been agreed to, and now we're waiting for about a year to go by, and that's when the physical wedding would take place. In the Jewish traditional writings, again, we don't have an age given in the gospel, but in the Jewish traditional writings, we're told that if your daughter achieves the age of 13 and you have not made a marriage contract for her, free one of your servants and arrange a marriage contract with that person so that this embarrassment might be removed from your household. That puts Mary somewhere in the window of 11, 12. And I don't think we get this story we're about to read well unless we see it's a Nazareth story with a young girl who's 11 or 12 getting ready for marriage, coming to Joseph, who's probably in mid to late teens. Here it is, the setup again. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. We get 1-2 verses there, pregnant with background data, and we can't read past it too quickly. We need to figure out what the circumstances are before we get to the story, and the geography and the age are critical. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings, you are highly favored. The Lord is with you." You notice that echo in this trip? How often God says, I want to affirm something that I've said before, Ani Etikem, I am with you. Just want to let you know that that's the case. And Mary was greatly troubled at his words. No kidding, right? When was the last time you dealt with a heavenly being? Well, can't really think back to a time when I dealt with a heavenly being who showed up and greeted me that way. She was troubled at the words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. And the angel said to her, "Oh, don't be afraid, Mary. You found favor with God." Well, there's a sigh of relief right there. Because you don't know why a divine angel, messenger shows up. It could be to light up the fire and brimstone stuff, right? So when she hears that, at least she can breathe again. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. Well, here's some good news. I'm going to get married, and I'm going to become pregnant and have a son. He'll be great, whoa, and called the Son of the Most High. Whoa, this is going somewhere now. The Lord will give him the throne of his father David. Remember 2 Samuel 24, the promise, David, one of your descendants will be Messiah. The Lord will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever and ever. His kingdom will never end. You write the music score to that, and it just soars, right? Through all of this. And the next quote is so precious and simple and honest. "How can this be," Mary asked, "since I'm a virgin?" All of that sounds exceptional. But it sounds like you're advancing the time clock on the marriage contract, and it wouldn't really be good for me to be pregnant now. And the angel answered, "Oh, the Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you, so the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who is unable to conceive is in her 6th month. No word from God will ever fail." I am not sure what of those 2 paragraphs of divine revelation she got. I mean, I just feel like starched back, eyes wide open, trying to come to grips with the presence of a divine being, and then getting this incredible, incredible news. Mary's next words, I'm the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. I'm not sure she could categorically repeat everything. I'm not sure she understood everything. But here was a person of faith who just said, okay. 13 years old, at most, village of Nazareth. Her next sentence, unrecorded, may well have been, this is amazing, let's go tell Joseph. Unique. Let's go tell mom and dad. Let's go tell Joseph's mom and dad and family, right? That I'm going to get pregnant and it's okay. And it'll be before we actually do the wedding, but that's okay too. And the next sentence, then the angel left her. Alone, this teenager has to walk back into the presence of her beloved Joseph and say, I'm going to be pregnant, and it's not you, and it's okay, because an angel said, I'm going to give birth to a special child. And if that doesn't strike you sitting here on this ridge like a task to take on of immense proportions, I don't know what is. And then Joseph didn't react well to this. We know, and we'll come to that in a moment. She has to go to mom and dad. Well, mom and dad aren't going to be thrilled about this either. And Joseph is going to tell mom and dad about this, and they're not going to be thrilled. And now we have an entire village where everyone knows everyone else who's going to be saying, did you hear what happened? They've got a marriage contract, she's pregnant. She says an angel said it was okay. We take it for granted that people got it in Nazareth. I don't think people got it in Nazareth. And I don't think Mary ever escaped the vortex of this challenge that she faced. They go to a wedding in Cana. Jesus is an adult and she's pleading with him. They're out of wine. Would you please do something? Show that I am not that one that had the illegitimate child. That you're an authentic miracle and that you're unique and special. And I think her whole life she lived behind that matrix and veil of this village that looked down on her. And when Mary and Joseph go to Bethlehem and there's no room for them in the katalima, in the guest room of the home, and John says they came to their own and their own didn't receive them. You know, we celebrate these guys at Christmas, but my goodness, the living out of that Christmas story was brutal for these two because of their age and because they're from Nazareth. Whatever you think of Mary, I hope you think more of her as a consequence of that, for what she went through. I'm going back to Matthew now.